Um, Alrighty, so my name is Sophia Kogai. Thank you so much for joining me today in this presentation. I am the occupational therapy student at the Sacramento campus in UP, and I'm doing my doctoral capstone project on first generation college students and their utilization of mental health services on campus. So I'm really passionate about this because I also was a first generation college student. And this is something that I could have used when I was younger. So I'm very passionate about it. And a piece of my project is to educate students on mental health and how to take care of themselves. But with that, I thought it was really important to also discuss with the staff that are working with these first generation students on how to take care of themselves. And it can be an emotionally heavy position to be in. So, I think it's really important to be able to take care of yourselves so that you're able to care for first gen students and their unique challenges and all that. So hopefully this presentation is beneficial and you learn something. And yes, hopefully it's helpful. But as Rosie had mentioned, it's a bit interactive, so there will be some reflection questions and discussions. And if you want to come off mute, you can say whatever you need to do or write in the chat. So yeah. Um, so first off, our objectives. So we'll be discussing just understanding what burnout is and its various factors, exploring burnout risks that are specific to working with first-gen students, identifying signs of burnout in yourself and being able to recognize it in others that you're working with, and learning about the domains of work life that lead to work-related burnout. So it's really important. And then lastly, just learning practical ways to prevent and manage any burnout that's already existing and utilizing the seven dimensions of wellness in order to do that. The seven dimensions of wellness is kind of the foundation of my projects. It is something that I'm discussing with the students on a weekly basis in a weekly workshop. So I think that's a really important um, frame framework that can help with mental health in so many different layers. And so I'll jump on in. What is burnout? Burnout is essentially the result of too much energy output and not enough energy self-invested. So the definition of burnout is a psychological syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. So it is considered a developing condition. So it has a productive reduction in levels of engagement. So we'll be going over that in just a few slides. It evolves from enthusiasm to apathy. And again, we'll be going through all of those stages in just a little bit. So burnout has three key dimensions. First, individuals may be described or feeling energy depletion or exhaustion on a daily basis or frequently, increase in mental distance from one's job, maybe experiencing some negativism or cynicism. Whereas when you first start and you're very passionate, you may not be experiencing this. And lastly, reduce professional efficacy. So the World Health Organization has now included stuff or burnouts in that ICD-11. So there's code for that now. Although it's not considered a medical condition, they are calling it an occupational phenomenon. So it does happen frequently enough for it to be a problem, not just in a school setting, but in healthcare and in multiple settings everywhere. So it is really important to learn about it and learn how to prevent it, learn how to manage it, because it is prevalent across the board. So next we're going to get into the five stages of burnouts, just so we're able to recognize what occurs in each stage and how you can best help yourself depending on where you are at. So we'll start off on the first stage. This is the honeymoon or enthusiasm stage. So this is a pretty good place to be. At this point, you may have job satisfaction. There's a lot of high productivity. You're feeling very creative in your position. You're committed to work, the people, the tasks, everything is going smoothly. and you're very happy in your work and the work that you do. So a lot of people in this stage are still feeling very energetic and optimistic in what they're doing and their capability in their role. And so it's really important to keep in mind as we discuss the different stages and throughout the presentation of just being intentional about figuring out what exactly is moving you away from this stage and what needs to occur in order to return back to stage one, is the enthusiasm stage. So the next stage is the onset of stress. So in this stage now, there's a lot of more stagnation that's occurring. People and typically feel more irritable or anxious during the stage as stress increases. And any small irritations or annoyances that you might have previously let go or wouldn't have affected you as much might be bothering you a lot more as the stress is increasing and festering up, right? There starts to become a decrease in focus and productivity in your work, as well as many physical symptoms as well. So during this stage, you might start feeling more tired or having more periodic headaches. Sleep quality might be decreasing multiple nights a week. Maybe you're due to stress, overthinking, having that ongoing to-do list, right? And during this stage, tasks are still being completed. However, they may not be as efficient, might be slower, and work might be coming home with you. Maybe you're staying later at work or coming early, bringing work home, and maybe you're starting to feel like you're not as present at home anymore because you're so stressed with everything work related, right? And so boundaries starts to be crossed during this time. So life and work boundaries are being crossed, and time at work starts to blend in with time at home. And so a lot of individuals start coping and maybe with unhealthy coping mechanisms. So that could be in terms of rest, like we mentioned, in terms of nutrition. So maybe not eating as healthy or getting enough exercise because you may be so tired and stressed from work, right? And so that kind of leads us to stage three, which is more chronic stress and frustration. So now you're moving away from just a little bit of irritability to apathy. Many people in this stage are feeling like they don't care as much anymore about what they're doing, even though they at one point thought it was were very passionate and enthusiastic about it. They may be feeling more fatigue. There's persistence in fatigue and daily fatigue, maybe like waking up tired, going to sleep tired, spending the whole day tired, things like that. And so that can lead to procrastination or a more cynical attitude versus before. And many people begin to doubt any positive changes or efforts that could occur. So you're just becoming more resentful during the stage and begin to even socially withdraw. So that could be from coworkers or just people in your personal life as well. As each stage goes along, the symptoms become more drastic. Um, so this is the next stage is stage four. So this is now burnout. So this is more pessimism at this point, and beyond cynicism. So at this point, you may not think that anything in the situation can change or a certain person can change. There's a lot of doubt about self-efficacy or an individual's ability to or capabilities to complete work. Socially, there's a lot more isolation than there was in the previous stages, um, again, at work or in personal life. And the physical changes that occur during the stage are more chronic headaches, GI problems, and many begin to neglect their personal needs. So self-care kind of goes out the window during this stage. People are not taking care of themselves or having any health maintenance. So that's going to the doctor, checkups, just anything that you need to be healthy. It it's harder to do during stage four. Um, and lastly, more obsessions with disparities and discrepancies among others. So something that we had mentioned in the previous stages, that if something is bothering you or is irritating you, it feels more hyper focused on that. If there's any inequalities that are occurring at work, or just anything in general, really, there's a lot more um, just obsession with that, or it's harder to take your thoughts away from it and be more efficient at work. And lastly, we have stage five. So this is habitual burnout. So this is everything that's in stage four, except a lot more exacerbated and longer lived. Everything is just a lot more heightened at this time. People could feel more chronic sadness, such as depression, anxiety. There's a lot more mental and physical fatigue as the earlier stages, and it's just a lot harder to get back to stage one from here. Given all those stages, I just want to take a moment, if we can have a moment of reflection of how have you ever experienced any of these symptoms of burnout, or if you have you seen a staff member experiencing something, or are you able to recognize what stage of burnout you are in, or anything like that. So I'll open up the chats, or you can come off mute if you'd like. Um, Actually, I don't know how to find my chat. Like, uh, sorry, I'm still learning how to use Zoom. Oh, up here. Yeah. Um, yes, I've caught myself in a burnout stage in previous roles. Okay, yeah, definitely. Was that like stage four then of burnout?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Lalo.
I,
Yeah, and I think the role that I had prior to this one coming here to Pacific, I was definitely at the stage four. As I was like reading your bullet points and hearing about it, I was like, oh dang, like that's definitely where I was at and what
yeah.
prompted me to job search to try to get back to the stage one where I was feeling more confident and optimistic. Um,
Hmm.
because I felt that I didn't want to be in stage five of habitual burnout where like just everything is terrible.
Yeah,
But yeah, but the
that's a good way to
burnout,
play it.
yeah, resulted in me leaving and going to a different position.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and that tends to happen a lot of if people are un aware of burn that they're even experiencing burnout. Sometimes it's if you're not aware of it, you don't know how to fix it. And so it kind of leads people to leave those job positions. And with your positions so important, you're working with first gen students, and they love and trust you. So it definitely would make impact on students and their mental health and all that. So um, it's interesting to hear that. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Um, Anyone else? Check my chat. Uh, oh, okay. Well, thank you for sharing, Lola. I'll go ahead and continue. Bear with me with the Zoom. Appreciate it. Okay. So next, so we're gonna discuss the causes of burnout. So there is a model called the job demands and resources model. And this essentially is the correlation between job demands and job resources and how that tends to lead to burnout. So, first off, job demands, these are physical, psychological, social, or organizational aspects of the job that require sustained physical, cognitive, and emotional efforts or skills. So, essentially, just anything that's needed in order to complete your job every single day. And so some examples of this would be unfavorable physical environments. So if the physical environment where you're working is not suitable to being efficient in your work. That can be challenging. It can be emotionally draining interactions. As you know, working with first gen students, this is a very frequent conversation, and so that can be very emotionally draining if you're having a lot of those stacked up in a day, in a week, a month, etc. And then lastly, fast-paced, high workload. So I know there's multiple departments in this presentation. I appreciate that. Everyone has different number of staff in their departments, and so it can impact what the workload is. So if you have high workload, that is under job demands. And so the job resources are physical, psychological, social, or organizational aspects of the job that help employees deal with stressful situations, bolster motivation, stimulate personal growth and development. So these are just anything that you would need to help you complete your job task. So some examples of this are constructive feedback, pay security, autonomy of your job and what you do every day, task variety, so not doing mundane tasks every single day, the same thing, and not having some variety in your work. And lastly, support from managers and coworkers. So, oops. So this is an image that kind of describes the job demands and resources model. So each of the quadrants shows an expected consequence of combining high and low levels of job demands and job resources. So we essentially want to be here in the green, the engagement. So this is ample job resources and low job demands. And so with that, you get engagement. And so engagement is a positive, fulfilling, work-related state of mind characterized by high energy, mental resilience, dedication, enthusiasm, and happy absorption. So this that kind of describes stage one of the burnout, right? It's a lot more positive engagement. And then down here, the burnout, this is low resources and high demands. So everything that we just talked about, if you have a lot that is being asked of you, but you do not have the resources, that will lead to burnout. However, it is important to note that engagement and burnout are not mutually exclusive. They are very much intertwined. So you are still able to have high engagement and high burnouts at the same time. So if the demands are high and the resources are high, you will have both burnout and engagement, which is a fine line to navigate for sure, but it's important to be aware of that as well. And then if you have low demand and low resources, this is low engagement and low burnout as well. But it can lead to apathy. So um, it is again a very fine line to balance, but knowing this information will help with being able to balance that in work. Um, yeah, so next up will be, now that we know that, we're going to be discussing the unique challenges with working with first gen students. As you may know, this may differ from, general population or the continuing generation students that you work with. So um, some of the unique challenges are a lot of emotional labor that goes into the position. So there's a lot of advocacy, there's a lot of mentorship, and that leads to emotional fatigue. And that's something that we'll be discussing in just a little bit. When you're working with these students, you are wearing a lot of hats. There could be a lot of role strain because all at the same time you are playing the role of an educator, of a counselor, you're advocating for students there. They are telling you about all of their challenges and getting personal with you. So there's a lot that is being asked of you, and that can be very challenging. And again, leading to burnouts. But we'll talk about emotional fatigue in, I think, the next slide. There's also this exposure to systemic inequalities and student trauma. So this is something that did come up in the surveys that I sent out. Thank you for those who completed that. there a lot of times there's your hands are kind of tied due to systemic challenges and barriers that are out of your hands. You're not able to do a lot about it, so that can be very frustrating. And just having a lack of institutional support can make the a challenging job harder, right? There's also a high expectation to fix complex problems. So if you think about like our current political climate, there's a lot of students who are having a challenging time with that, navigating it, and they may turn to you, but it's hard because if you it is a complex problem. There's not a lot we can do to fix it. And so that can be very heavy. And again lead to burnouts. Yes, and so navigating complex topics with students, it could be a number of things that you the students will look to you for answers. So that can be hard. And then lastly, just vicarious stress from students' financial, academic, and family challenges. So yeah, that can for sure be a lot to handle every day or week. So again, my reflection question for this is what are some unique challenges that you have faced working with first generation college students? And if you feel comfortable coming off mute and sharing or putting in the chat, just anything that comes to mind that you're able to. Oops.
I think for us at Trio, sometimes it feels very stacked, like the emotional labor, especially during like we have things called beginning and end of semester meetings where we can
Hmm.
easily meet with 6 or 7 students. Like we can have 8 meetings a day, and it can literally range from like I'm not doing so good, I'm doing great, to my parent died, or this
Hmm.
happened, or I'm, on the verge of homelessness. So it's kind of hard to like take breaks here and there when you're busy, but then also like stacking up your emotions throughout the day. And it's like, okay, I have to deal with the academic side, but then the emotional side, then, trying to find resources. And then sometimes it is kind of hard to disassociate from the students because we do build those relationships all of
Yeah,
the whole year. We constantly see them. So
right.
it is hard. I think we wear a lot of hats, not just as educators, but like you said, as counselors and free therapy, even though it's
Yeah.
it's just very hard. So I think over time we all like as a team have worked together, like, okay, don't forget to take your break, take 10
Mhm.
minutes. But that doesn't mean that it's not hard. So I think going
Yeah.
home sometimes it's like you're so exhausted, I'm talked out,
Yeah.
and I have kids, so I can't do that. But it's just like hard to separate.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and that hits almost all the bullets, right? And if this happens every single day, that can have a physical, emotional, social toll on you, in your personal life as well. So thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
I
Anyone
concur with
else?
Jackie. Um, it it does range from like what our students go through, especially with first gen students. Because sometimes like it could be a home life, it could be personal situations, and then like just separating what's going on with them from like whatever you're feeling at the same time can be,
Hmm.
and then having to go home and having to like still be that active person at home and not bringing that
Yeah.
extra stress on with you can be definitely be difficult. So like
Hmm.
making sure that you check in with like your team, making sure you check in with somebody that you want
Absolutely.
to express is a very important deal.
Absolutely, yes. I completely agree. It is really hard to have a full work day, right? And then having to go home and continue the day and when you're already kind of depleted. Right? But thank you for sharing. Yeah, so let's see. So then oh yeah, so this is trauma-informed care and emotional fatigue. So something that everyone's kind of mentioned so far that you are having these emotional conversations all day, and it is hard to kind of um, leave that at home when you're so invested in students and you have these relationships. So having trauma-informed cares is important to develop or get further training on if you don't already have it. But staff can easily become overly engaged with these students who are experiencing trauma, especially if you can relate to the trauma that they're experiencing. So it's hard to not have empathy for these students that we care about, right? And so trauma-informed staff kind of need to learn how to balance and display appropriate empathy with strong emotional boundaries. And so that can be really hard because you want to do everything in your power to help, and it's hard to set boundaries in general, especially when someone is coming to you for emotional supports. But the four principles of working with trauma-infected individuals is normalizing and validating their feelings and experiences. So sometimes when a student is coming to you and you're not really sure what to say, um, just a good place to start is normalizing it and their feelings, because that is something that some of the students mentioned to me in conversations, and also the survey that I had given out to them is I just need someone to tell me that what I'm feeling is okay, or just they're seeking validation. Next is just assisting them in understanding the past and its emotional impact. So sometimes students are coming to you for something that happened already, but they're still feeling the effects. And so it's hard for students to navigate some of these emotions, and it is kind of like therapy, unfortunately. But and that's the whole idea is I would love for these students to go to seek CAPS, but they may not trust that, and so they are coming to you to kind of navigate these feelings that they might not have already sorted through. And just empowering them to better manage their current lives. So a lot of the workshops that I'm doing with them on a weekly basis is just trying to educate on how to take care of themselves, how to navigate emotions, how to in different dimensions of wellness. So that's an important one. And then lastly, just helping them understand current challenges in the light of past victimization. So it's younger students, maybe if they're haven't dealt with a lot of sorting through their emotions, they may not even know how to do that. So I have this resource here. If you're able to scan the QR code, it's a trauma-informed practice for post-secondary education. So it's a guide. I can show you this. It is a really good resource. It looks like this. Are you still able to see this? It's my screen.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so it's this workbook, and it's very helpful. It kind of goes through what trauma is and how it shows up in different groups and how to recognize the signs of it. So I did get a lot of information on here. So it shows what some traumas maybe that students have experienced, and then um, yeah, like learning or being able to teach the students how to navigate there. So this is just something I wanted to provide for you all to read through. It was a lot to put in the presentation itself, but there's a good section of different groups. So there's different sections for like refugee students or LGBTQ students, etc., non-traditional adult learners. But yeah, so this is just a really good resource to be able to help you help students. So you can also send that out afterwards if it's helpful. Um, Okay, and so going over empathy fatigue and empathy compassion. So again, this is something that's come up a lot, right? So empathy fatigue is emotional and physical fatigue that's resulting from empathizing with another person's pain, their grief, anxiety, anger, or any other strong emotions over an extended period of time. So the typical causes of empathy fatigue are not compartmentalizing compassionate care. So everyone is very caring and everyone is very empathetic, um, or else you wouldn't be in these positions, right? But it's hard to not compartmentalize because it's a big deal and it's constant. But compartmentalization is a really important strategy for combating empathy fatigue, as well as just owning other people's problems or issues and their concerns, and over identifying with other people's distress. So, again, if you are relating to something that a student is discussing with you, then it's kind of hard to not feel this way, right? But that does lead to empathy fatigue. And so a lot of self-care things that you can do to prevent this is strategic, intentional breaks, resting. I hear that that is something that happens, is taking breaks, restorative periods, so taking your vacation times, and just setting personal boundaries and define expectations to the students. So just kind of communicating that would help for sure. And then next, compassion fatigue. So this is extreme stress and burnout from providing care to those who have experienced trauma. So it's slightly different. The typical causes for compassion fatigue are empathetic connection to a trauma survivor. So there's secondary traumatization from experiencing the traumatic event as though you were personally experiencing it. So this is a hard one for the empaths, right? Because you kind of tend to absorb other people's stories and their feelings and their experiences, and making it your own, and your body can feel those things as if you personally went through those traumatic experiences. So some personal stress management will really help with compassion fatigue. So just self-awareness of first that it's even happening, of how it's showing up in your body, mentally, emotionally, all that, and just kind of reframing circumstances and situations is a good way to combat it. Kind of telling yourself, okay, this is something that someone is telling me. This is not my experience. I can help them and I can guide them, but it's not for me to take in personally. And so relaxation techniques kind of help with this, and grounding techniques as well. So my reflection question for this is, can you recall a time that you experienced empathy fatigue, and what you did with that, or how it showed up in your body, what your experience was like? So you want to put it in the chat or come on mute, off mute?
I think I think also, and sorry, I've been a little bit in and out, but I
That's
didn't
all
see
good.
some of these show up with racial battle fatigue as well. And I
Hmm.
don't know if that's a part of your
Yeah,
research in
absolutely.
this way. Um, and trying to have empathy and trying to have compassion in how we serve our students, especially
Hmm.
from historically marginalized communities.
Yeah.
And obviously dealing with the political climate right now, right? And
Hmm.
I obviously can't speak as a non-Latinx community member, but I can only imagine, and I've experienced, dealing with, um, black men or black people being killed at the
Yeah.
hands of police in society, and having to navigate that and support students in that way. And so, likening it to that experience, and dealing with racial battle fatigue and trying to have this compassion and empathy for students, and but then also
Hmm.
trying to understand how you do that for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, you can kind of cloud it um and put it away because you have to be strong, or you want to be strong for your students, and you want to
Hmm.
show up for them. And at the same time, you're worried about your own family. You're worried about your own
Yeah.
nephews or own children and so much more. And so I think that shows up in different ways. And then also just really taking that moment to just be and be grateful for your life, but then also trying to wrestle with that and support and be empathetic for family and friends and so much more.
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. It is a very multifaceted experience, and a lot of marginalized communities are feeling this. So it's hard to navigate for sure, and it's easy to fall into empathy fatigue or compassion fatigue because you are experiencing it yourself or someone that you know. So it is hard to navigate that for sure.
And
Um,
and sorry,
oh no,
one
you're good.
one extra layer that I would add into that is, obviously the difference in seeing it on social media, right? And seeing
Yeah.
so many different misinformation, disinformation, or just the realities of it on social media and it being right in our
Hmm.
face. It just exacerbates that in so many different levels.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because it does extend out outside of work as well. So you're experiencing it at work, you're experiencing it in your personal life. When you hop on social media, it's everywhere. So it's just surrounding you for sure. So it's hard um, be able to sort through your own experiences, your own feelings, helping students with theirs, and just doing this constantly can just be a lot. So for sure, empathy and compassion are necessary for our roles with helping students. So not to say that you shouldn't have compassion or empathy. Obviously, it's there. But I think just finding a balance is key, right? So it's hard it's easier said than done. But I think just little things become bigger things. But for sure, it's heavy. But thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else?
I just want to add, also like just recognizing what our triggers are, either when
Hmm.
we're talking to students or helping students, or whether we're seeing it on in the news or social media. Just, I think acknowledging and understanding what our triggers are, and then also trying to provide healing for ourselves so that way we
Hmm.
can, heal from within. And because we carry a lot,
Yeah.
we're also, coming from marginalized communities, and we have experienced a lot through either childhood, adulthood, whatever that may be. But just, I think, recognizing and then trying to find healing.
Hmm. Yeah, and sometimes those two things can happen concurrently. Like I know I have learned a lot and healed a lot just by doing these presentations with the students, and I hopefully students are healing at the same time as me, so I feel like the same thing can go for staff as well. If you're able to care for yourself and do all those self-care things, little things at a time, then it's easier to help other students or know how to support them in their own healing as well. Sure. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so we'll go on to so key work domains of life. So or key domains of work life. So these are six domains that are important, not just for students or working with first-gen students, but just in general, what an individual would need in their work life in order to feel satisfied and be able to work. So first is the workload. So this is the amount of work that needs to be done in a given time. So if you think about the work demands that we're discussing, if this is spilling over into your personal life, any social pressures and physical and intellectual burdens of the job demands. So this is everything that we kind of discussed in that model a few slides prior. And then control. So this is the opportunity to make choices and decisions to solve problems and to contribute to fulfillment and the fulfillment of responsibility. So this is a lot more autonomy, so just having control of what you're doing and having your voice heard um, and your input of your role. So participation is important. in important decision making about your job and just having professional autonomy. So the next domain is reward. So staff typically work better if they're being recognized. So this is the recognition that you receive for your contributions on the job. So this could be financial and social. This could come in the form of praise or awards, perks, salary increase, etc. So there's it doesn't always need to be monetary, but yeah, so any type of reward. And then community, so this is the quality of social context in which you're working. So your relationships with your managers, the colleagues, subordinates, the students, parents, etc. Um, and then fairness. So the organization has consistent and equitable rules for everybody. There's equality of justice, and everyone is receiving the same amount of respects at work. And lastly, values. So, what matters to you in your work? So, if your values and the organization's values are aligning. So, these are the domains to keep in mind that are important for any person, any working person. And so, it's important to keep to know these in order to prevent further burnouts, because this is like the foundation, pretty much. And so, I'll be discussing, I believe, preventions. Yes. So these are the levels of prevention. So there's primary, secondary, and tertiary. So primary is mostly focusing on collective organization-based interventions to identify and eliminate or reduce stressors before they lead to burnout. So this is in this level, excuse me, in this level, is involving creating healthy and engaging work environments with policies such as promoting work-life balance, recognizing worker achievements, and encouraging open communication. So these are if your staff are not currently experiencing burnout, then this is a good place to focus on because it would prevent that. And so the second level of prevention is now focusing more on early detection of stress and exhaustion, and rapid interventions to prevent the evolution of burnouts. So this would include regular assessments of the workers and well-being. So this is check-ins, maybe a weekly staff check-in or email or workshop or whatever it may be, as well as providing stress management programs or resilience training in order to, you know, be able to keep up with staff well-being on a more regular basis. And then lastly, we have tertiary. So for this level, it's mainly based on the individual focused intervention. So when workers are already suffering from burnout. Prevention is aimed at minimizing long-term damages while facilitating recovery and integration into the workplace. So if a staff member is already feeling burnt out, this would be interventions that would help them reintegrate into work again if they needed to take time off or receive psychological support, etc., things like that. And so interventions would include psychological supports, professional reintegration programs, even adjustments to responsibilities that they have, and just really focusing on healing and rehabilitation. So keeping these in mind for if someone's not already experiencing burnout, there's things that we can do before symptoms even occur to prevent symptoms from happening. So these are now the evidence-based recommendations. So there a lot of research shows that a combination of person-directed and organization-directed strategies are the best way to prevent and combat burnout. So we're going to be going through four different sections, some that are organization interventions and some that are individual interventions. So first off, we have the organizational interventions that are aimed at the work structure. So these are improving job characteristics, so work redesign. So really seeing what all the job tasks are, what the workflow looks like, and seeing if everything makes sense or where things can be moved around, and making modifications for even exposure times to any potential stressors. So being able to identify what the stressors even are, and what can be done to minimize that. Also, just the humanization of schedules and implementation of work-life balance plans. Um, a lot of times, if staff is stressed out, they're overworked, they're staying later, coming in early, not really having a work-life balance, just really focusing on that because it's a huge deal if individuals are not able to get off of work, go unwind, go live their personal life, then it's going to bleed into work. So if that's not already happening, it's a really good place to start. As well as manager leadership development. So having supportive managers and having open communication and having again, just rewards and incentives that are not only financial, but praise, recognition, things like that. And developing of welcoming programs. So this is when you're having a onboarding. So having in the onboarding process, strategies in place that's already kind of keep in mind of all of these things and what burnout looks like, and how we can keep our staff as healthy and productive as possible. Also, burnout monitoring and designing customized plans. So if you're aware of the signs and you're seeing that in your staff, then just having a plan in place in order to kind of go down the stages of burnout. And lastly, just institutionalization of occupational health and safety. So just making sure that everyone is healthy and getting checked out frequently and taking care of themselves. So next up, we have the interventions promoted by the organizations, and these are aimed at the employees from the organization. So this is giving staff training, the necessary training that they need in order to complete the job. So this could be acquiring new skills or technical knowledge, improving self-efficacy, personal development, or social skills. Like we had mentioned in the previous slides, if we're working with students who have had traumatic experiences, and you don't have trauma-informed training, then that can be really hard to navigate any of those conversations or work with these students because you don't have that skill. So if that's something that needs to happen, then doing like a organization-wide training or necessary trainings would be helpful. And then strength-based interventions. So this is just knowing and utilizing each individual's strengths and having that be the foundation of their role in the organization. Coaching and guidance. So this could be a number of things, but just any type of assistance that needs to be type of assistance that's needed, and just providing staff with supports in general, is important. And then lastly, creating the creation of support groups. So having support group within like coworkers, managerial support, outside supports, things like that. And then so these are the more individual-driven interventions. So this is individually driven, but work-focused intervention. So these are actions that are aimed at improving the work environment. So this is time management or job crafting. And so this has come up quite a few times now, just being able to put in input of what you think the role should look like, and what needs to be done, all that. And then just time management it can be really challenging because, again, there is so much that needs to be done, and there's so many students that need help, and maybe limited staff. So time management or learning how to manage tasks and every day can help with this. And then also managing a mental energy, so emotional and physical energy, um, psychological resources, providing resources for helping with emotional, cognition, executive functioning, which is attention, working memory, and behavior. So everything that we do has a limited amount of energy. And so every task that you do, every conversation that you have, everything that you're thinking about, this is all kind of depleting your finite energy. So just being aware of that and then knowing when to recharge as your energy is decreasing at the end of each day. And then lastly, we have individual focused interventions. So these are promoted by the individual, and this could be just even outside of work, just in general for people. Just maintaining physical exercise, having good mindfulness training. And this could be relaxation techniques and meditation, all that. Self-assessment is a big one because being able to self-reflect and know what your challenges are, what you're experiencing, what's going on in your body, what's going on in your mind, in your life. That is the first step of being able to do anything. So self-assessment. And then psychotherapy, if that's important, or cognitive techniques. So this could be reframing or positive affirmations or um, you know, yeah, just a lot of cognitive things. Physiological deactivation techniques. So this is something I mentioned in one of our workshops, but this is like physical relaxation. So you like tighten up each of your muscles, and this kind of helps you um, relax your whole body. So just having ways to help your body physiologically. And then lastly, training in healthy lifestyles and habits. So just yeah, lifestyle habits, doing one thing at a time will kind of build up to something bigger. So that was a lot, I know, but um, does anyone have any questions so far? That was a lot of information about interventions.
Thank you, Sophia. That was
Yeah.
great. I think one of the questions that I bring up a lot is we know students need that the therapy care, but a lot of our students don't necessarily feel as comfortable or kind of see therapy as not an option, whether it be culture or whatever that may be.
Mhm.
But in your research that you're doing with first gen, I know they're not, research shows that they're still not using it as much as they should. And so in your research, have you found like new ways or new approaches of therapy for students, for first gen students?
New approaches. Not exactly. So this is, yeah, it's been challenging for sure to find solutions that will work for everybody because everyone is so different and everyone has different challenges and different ideologies and all that. So a lot of the research is very general. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of the same themes come up of why students are not receiving the services. So a lot of the cultural barriers and stigma and family supports and all of that. So that comes up so many times, but the solution of how to get them to therapy is not as clear. So because of that, the whole basis of my present or my project is to, okay, if they're not going to therapy, then being able to first take care of themselves or be more self-aware that these are different aspects of their life that need attending to. And so that with that awareness becomes more comfortable, leads to comfortability. And so that will lead to less resistance to receiving services that they need. Because the many students that I've spoken to so far, they say like, oh yeah, I don't know, I could probably use it, I just don't really want to, or there's a number of reasons. Well, meanwhile, other students are less aware of things that they can do or what mental health even means. So there's just such a huge variety. So a clear-cut solution has been really hard to find. So I think, yeah, it's hard to answer. Um, there's just so much that goes into it. But hopefully, learning more about each of the dimensions can help with a mindset shift because that's a really important aspect of that. Like even if a student has come from like a cultural background where it was taboo and their parents wouldn't support it and their upbringing, all that, if there can they can still have that background, but still if there's a mindset shift because of just learning more about it, then that can still be something that will be like, okay, well, this is what I grew up with, this is my past, but this is what I know I need. And this is what can help me with my current problems, hopefully. Yeah, that's a great question. Um, yeah, so these are so the seven dimensions of wellness. Are physical, emotional, social, spiritual, intellectual, and environmental and vocational. So these are really what I've been the foundation of this project. So physical wellness is, exercising, getting rest, sleeping, nutrition, even. So um, keeping in mind that you're eating healthy and you're moving your body as much as you're supposed to. Emotional dimension is discusses just your emotional awareness and being able to cope and regulate your emotions, express your emotions. Social wellness is the connections that you have with your friends, with your community, with your family, even. Spiritual wellness is your sense of purpose and belonging, of connection, all that. And this could be religious or non-religious. Intellectual wellness is just gaining more knowledge, like what it sounds like. Um, and then environmental is just having a um, supportive, um, supportive environment, a safe environment, a clean environment, because that can definitely help harm someone's mental health if their physical environment is not safe or um, productive, right? And then lastly, vocational is what you do in every day. So your job, your how you spend your time basically every day. And so there is also research that shows that knowing where you're lacking in each of these dimensions can be the first steps that you can take in order to kind of help with mental health, help with burnout as well. So I have this gauge here, and you kind of starting off with 0, and you can go through each of the dimensions and see where you lie on this scale. So if you haven't, like physical, for example, if you know you haven't exercised in a while, you haven't been eating healthy, you haven't been sleeping, all that, and you're kind of more in the negative range, then it's important to be aware of that and take little steps um, to put some love and attention into that dimension and take a break, have some rest, have a healthy meal, etc. And so, yeah, this is the dimensions of wellness are really important for all of that. So my reflection question for this is how have you already utilized any of these dimensions in your self-care, or have you, or what do you feel like you're lacking on when you've experienced burnouts? Are any of the dimensions popping out that you are neglecting in yourself? Yeah. This one is there's a lot that goes into this one. Um, Sorry, I actually didn't see the chat. Oh yes, there will be I'll send out the recording and the PowerPoint as well after this. But yeah, anyone feels comfortable sharing.
Physical, physical wellness, I feel like that's becoming better. Um, and I do understand like adjusting each dimension of wellness, it kind of does have like a domino effect. With better physical for myself, it has increased like my emotional wellness, which also increases like feeds into like my social, my spiritual, intellectual, environmental, and vocational wellness. So it is like improving on an aspect that's lacking will have like a domino effect in improving other aspects. So definitely,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great point. They're all interconnected for sure. So one dimension will bleed into another, and if you exercise then and attend to your physical wellness, that will improve your emotional wellness, and you can do it with a friend, and that'll improve your social wellness, etc. So that's a very good point. They're all very connected. Yeah. Anyone else?
I'm just gonna say it's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's like a give and take. So if I'm gonna
Hmm.
go do this, then this has to give. And so I think with just being in the doctoral program and having three kids and
Yeah.
work and all of that, it's like for me it's a constant battle with
Hmm.
all of these dimensions, but I understand and I recognize that I need to do this for myself so that way I can be the best person and support everybody else
Yeah.
in the meantime. But yeah, it's a constant like struggle to find the time to do all of these.
Yeah.
But I mean there's always time. There's always time or the energy, right? Because
Yeah,
sometimes it's
energy
like
is sometimes harder.
but yeah, I think just finding, I think you have to really reflect and find what works for you because whatever works for me, it's not going to work for anybody else or it
Hmm.
may.
Yeah.
But really sitting down and reflecting, like, okay, what are my goals for this week or what are my goals for today? Just take it a day at a time.
Hmm. Yeah, and absolutely. And it's not that you need to do all of these things every single day or every single week. It's just kind of reflecting what have you been lacking or what because it is a lot of give and take and it is a lot easier said than done, and I do recognize that. So I hope it doesn't seem like I'm or feel like I am saying do all these things and it's so easy in self-care because it's not. It's not easy, and we only have a limited amount of time and energy in the day. So there's no easy solution, unfortunately. It's just doing what we can when we can, and just having that self-awareness and reflecting, looking in, is going to be the first step of that. But yeah, no, it's definitely hard, and it's just doing something for yourself, helping yourself so that you can help others. But there's a lot going on in life, and that's going to affect all of this, really. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna move along for the sake of time. We're almost done. So this is just a little summary. I know I said a lot, so I appreciate you bearing with me. But this is just summary of the burnout strategy. So organizational wise, just advocating for manageable workloads, normalizing conversations about burnout, and helping each other, noticing changes in each other, regular professional development and mental health check-ins, and leadership support is the basis of all that. And then individual strategies, just setting boundaries with students and coworkers, whatever you need, just expressing that, being honest and transparent, engaging in regular self-care, 7 dimensions of wellness, although it's not easy. Any little thing can help, even if it's just a few minutes at a time, taking a 5 minutes. 5 minutes to do whatever it is that you need. Use of supervision and peer consultation for emotional support. So, just leaning on each other, leaning emotionally, and that's yeah, social support's going to help a lot, as well as practicing mindfulness or any grounding techniques. Learning to say no, that's okay. There is a lot that's being asked of you, so um, just it's okay to say no to some things. And then just giving yourself a transition time between home and work, even if it's just for a moment. So this isn't something I had mentioned before, but just having a transition, a transitional experience, I think, will help a lot with compartmentalizing your life and not letting work bleed into home life or your emotional exhaustion to bleed into home life and affects your personal life. So if it's doing something for 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you go go inside your house, either like sitting in your car or gardening or doing something at work after you're finished, but just giving yourself a second for that transition. And then just finding time for yourself every day. This is going to rebalance your energy, your workload, your burnout, everything. If it's just one little thing, every day you should ask yourself, what was one little thing that I did to help myself today or this week or this month, etc. But just make that into a regular. Um, and I believe that's it. But last thing that I'll leave you with is if we do a moment of reflection of just writing down some goals that you can do for yourself in the next couple of weeks that can avoid burnout. I have a quote here: rest and self-care are so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve from the overflow. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. So it's just important to keep that in mind. But yeah, if you want to take a moment just to jot something down, um, you know, and then if anyone feels comfortable sharing, we can do that. And this could be something as simple like pick a dimension. Um, this week I will have a transition period before I go home. I will sit in my car for 10 minutes listening to calming music. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, you can type it into the chat too if you want, or just say it out loud. Um, I'm going to try to reimagine what my work to home transition looks like. Oh yeah, that's great. Beautiful. That's personally something I do every time I have to transition somewhere. I'll sit in my car for 10 minutes and then I'll set a timer and just listen to music and breathe and then go off to my personal life. So that's a great one.
I know for me, one thing I want to continue doing is work on the seven dimensions of wellness.
Oh, beautiful.
So like because for me, it kind of gives you like a visual, to like, okay, well, how is this? And I can kind of grade myself on it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I created for the students was a self-care menu. And so in every workshop I have, I discuss strategies that they can do in each dimension. And so if there's something that they feel like would be helpful, they could write it in each of the sections. So it's just easy to access when you're in need. You can you can see what the dimensions are, you can see what you feel like will work for you, all that. So if that's something, I can send that out if anyone wants it, or it's easy to make as well, just jot it down wherever. But yeah, that's beautiful. I love that.
I'll share that. One of the things that's been helping me a lot is especially during, these times, political times, is just
Mhm.
sitting outside in the morning before my kids wake up and just drinking my tea and reading. I'm reading Solita right now, and it's also kind of related to immigration and all of that. But I just sit outside. It's quiet. Just hear the
Yeah.
birds chirping, and it's amazing. So I've been loving that.
Nice. I love that. The quiet before the storm.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else want to share? I can. If not, that's okay. I know these can be kind of personal too, so I appreciate everyone for sharing and all that. But yeah, that is it. These are my references. But I really appreciate everybody. Um, let me stop sharing my screen. Oops. Sorry. But yes, I really appreciate everyone showing up and listening to my presentation. I hope it was educational and useful in some regard. So yeah, hopefully it helps. But if there's any questions, I can answer them now, or if not, I will be sending all of this out, so you'll have access to it and be able to refer back to it whenever. But yeah, just take care of yourselves and all that. It's one thing at a time. Burnout doesn't heal itself immediately. It's not an overnight thing. It's just one little thing at a time. But you'll, if you're already feeling burnt out, you will get there.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Sophia. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Also, just to remind, Sophia is doing, like she mentioned, weekly workshops for students. So if you have students, I attached it to the calendar. You can just share that flyer with students. That way they can get the support they need. I know it's hard over summer trying to
Yeah.
find students, but yeah. So I think just sharing that out, will really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you all for your
Yes.
time. Thank you,
All
Sophia.
right.
This was
Thank
awesome.
you.
This is great.
Appreciate it. Take care, everyone.